Yeah, my name is Devon Marston, and I'm a BME service user living in Wandsworth. And I'm also the founder, member of Sound Minds, and co-founder member of Cane Rose. And I'm also a campaigner for better services and for BME mental health. And today, the purpose for me taking part in this film is that it enable me to document the work that we've done and I've done with the community development worker from the NHS Trust at Springfield Hospital with Ermias.
And my name is Ermias Alamu, and I'm a community development worker. I've been working in Wandsworth, employed by the Trust for nearly 7 years now. And my background, I studied transcultural mental health care at Queen Mary's College in University of London, and also worked in mental health for nearly 20 years now.
Oh.
Yes, in different settings. I always worked with people who are marginalized, vulnerable people. Started to work in community as a volunteer, my own community, and the Ethiopian community. I worked, set up a charity, a mental health charity as well, co-founded. But also I worked for NHS from 1996, also working with refugees and asylum seekers who have been traumatized, doing some mental health support and counseling.
Yeah. Was that before this post?
Yeah, 1996, I think my first employment as a project worker. Worked 3 years at Northwest London, and then I worked for a private healthcare in residential setting as well, with people with severe and enduring mental health problem in Streatham. I worked there for 2 years.
Was that black people or?
Mainly, yes. People discharged from Maudsley, mainly.
So your work then, as community development work, are you working with people from a minority background?
Mainly, yes. And then I went back to NHS and worked there as a counsellor, bilingual counsellor, and support worker for 1.5 years. But before coming to the Trust, I worked 4 years in a mental health charity in Camden and Islington.
Okay.
I worked there with people like, as you said, migrant groups, homeless people, people with drug and alcohol problems.
Yes.
I think the background for the community development workers post is, as you know, Devon, there was an incident in early 2000, late 90s, early 2000, the days of David Rocky Bennett.
Oh, the Rocky Bennett story.
Yes, which happened up in Norwich, and he died at the hands of his carers, mental health carers.
He was restrained, wasn't he?
Yeah, they were trying to restrain him, and he was asphyxiated, and he died. As a result of that, there was a big inquiry, government inquiry, which found that there is a gap between the mental health needs of the black and minority ethnic communities and the way mental health services are delivered. So the government, based on that inquiry, established a program called Delivering Race Equality, which is an action plan for 5 years, which is from 2005 to 2010. And the aim of the program was, how can we provide equal access, equal experience, and equal outcome in mental health services for people from black and minority ethnic communities. And it involved, in terms of providing appropriate and culturally appropriate services and available services for BME communities. And the second part was community engagement. How can we engage with communities, involve community leaders, community workers, phase leaders, involve them in designing, planning, and managing and evaluating services, so working with communities. And the last part was ethnic monitoring. We need to have a good data and information to find out how we're doing in terms of ethnicity. If we have good information, then we can see where to improve and where we're doing good
A good
So
practice,
that
yeah.
was a background for community. So the community engagement aspect of it was supposed to be delivered by 500 community development workers across England.
Yeah.
So I came here in 2007. I started with my colleague Marcia, if you remember.
I remember Marcia,
Brazilian,
yes.
yes.
And you've been there since. And I remember when I first met you, I thought that your post was only for 3 years. And then when 3 years were up and you're still around, I'm thinking, this is good, he's doing it for nothing. But no, they wanted to stay on because they saw that the work was very vital. But along the way, I think they lost it. I think when we started to have DRE meetings with the lit of the partnership meeting in Wandsworth, where all the different departments come together, they talked about DRE then and the work you're doing with Marcia. But then they didn't follow it up after a while. Meetings were not happening. So the work that we were doing, examining the work that you've done, and looking at it, we started that mapping and looking at the years when BME coming into the hospital, what section of the borough they're from. We found out that Asian people were not just left behind. They were part of the thing that was going on with service users, black guys coming into the trust, and people didn't know what was happening, why black people keep getting ill with mental health problems. So at that time, things were just beginning to change. But before they had community development workers, they had like people they were calling czars. The government employed people called czars, and they used to go into mental hospitals and try to overcome all these dilemmas that we're talking about. But then, as you're saying, something happened which made it more pressing and more vital. It was the Rocky Bennett incident. We were involved with that through the media here at Sound Minds. They came and interviewed us, the BBC 3 News, about the Rocky Bennett story because it was similar to what I encountered when I was on the ward with mental problems. I was restrained. They held me down. They OVD'd me. They gave me too much medication, and I collapsed and was unconscious for 4 days. Plus, Rocky Bennett was a drummer like me, playing reggae music like me, so I can identify with him. And that's why the BBC contacted us for us to give our views on that incident. So we were on the BBC News at that time, and the government employed people like yourself to start to examine these issues, delivering racial equality.
Yes, I think you're right, because I mean this subject and area has been talked about for decades. Probably starting from early maybe I don't know 70s, 80s maybe.
Before
people like Agri Burke, who used to be at St. George's. I think he's a pioneer, talking about why are more black people detained at acute hospitals and acute wards in terms of inpatient wards, and many black people are detained under the Mental Health Act, compulsory detention, and that proportion is so many times higher than the indigenous, the white population, and I think that's still the case. Although DRE tried to tackle that was part of the problem, was how can you address these inequalities that's existing within mental health services, which disadvantage black and minority ethnic communities, plus especially black African men are 3 to 5 times more likely to be brought to secondary mental health services, by under sections. And not only that, so not only sectioning, but also when they looked at diagnosis, black men especially are likely to get a diagnosis of schizophrenia rather than, for example, psychotic depression. And also when they looked at medication, they also found out, black people are more likely to get a higher dose of antipsychotic drugs, and more likely to stay in hospital, lengths of admission.
Locked up.
Yeah, more likely to be secluded, more likely to be restrained.
Yeah.
So that inequality exists, and at the bottom of this is, as I said, I think kind of it is institutionalized. It's the way services are trying to meet the needs of the community. There is a gap there. So that was partly the reason, this program was set up by the government. And as you said, it was supposed to be only for 5 years, but because the problem is still existing, and it probably will exist for some time, because we can't redress the balance in 5 years. This has been going on for decades and maybe for centuries, because if you start from the time of slavery and colonialism, so the power imbalance, the disadvantage and the destitution and socioeconomics and the risk factor, as you said, racism.
Race relations.
It exists in society and in institutions. And mental health services are no different than any other institution. So that was partly the reason. So when we came to Wandsworth, as you said, there wasn't much on the ground. There was no infrastructure. There was no strategy. So we just came, but it was blank. So we have to start from scratch, and I have to go around and do mapping and find out who is who in the borough. But there wasn't a strong BME sector or a strong voluntary sector that would advocate on behalf of people, especially in mental health. Unlike, for example, neighboring boroughs like Lambeth or Southwark or Lewisham. So
the boroughs at that time were funded quite good. Their community were funded, but this part of Wandsworth, West Battersea here, didn't get much money from the council to do up the area. When you go back down to North Battersea, down near Doddington, the council spent a lot of money on the estate. They had a youth club there. They had a mental health services there at one point. That's where Wandsworth Empowerment Network is there. There's lots of agencies and services that had money coming from Wandsworth Council, but this part of Battersea never had much money. When you go by Wandsworth Bridge area, the new estate there, the new houses there, I'm not sure if that's private or contractors that build those new houses. But I gather those were built for key workers to live. And some of them, they come to Clapham Junction at the weekend for a drink or something to eat. So that's the time when me and you first went into the community.
Yes.
Was at that time, those new housing were just finishing to be built and people were moving in. So that's when the work started, was when there was a new set of people coming into mental health, to work in mental health. And it so happens there was at that time that you was employed by the trust. And at that time in Wandsworth, things were different again, different from even now.
Yeah.
So I can look at it now and see the amount of work that you've done with the trust in Wandsworth. It's made a difference and things have changed. I'm not sure if the trust realise the work that you've done for the trust. You've made things change in Wandsworth for many people, but I'm not sure if the trust has really looked at it and seen that yet. So this film, part of this film, would be good for the professionals to see. So the work you've done at the beginning with me and you was very important. I remember we went around some of the surgeries, GP clinics, Falcon Road GP clinic. We met the manager there. We met the Dr. Okomo. We wanted him to come and join us in a meeting at the trust, but he declined. He didn't want to know for some reason, and he's BME, and he's a doctor, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Me and you went to the youth club, Battersea Youth Club, to talk to the children there, talk to people there about BME mental health. We went to the well-known, famous barber shop, just underneath Clapham Junction Station there, talking to people in the barber shop and the people who were barbers about BME mental health. We went to Battersea Chapel, a church, spoke to Leroy, the minister there. He was well up with what we were saying. He was in favour of of getting involved in mental health in the borough, especially around where there's churches. So we made a tremendous lot of work, and then you met up with other people in the borough. Talk about it, Malik and...
So, you're right, Devon. Thank you. I think the work that has been done, a lot has been done, as you said, nearly 7 years. So although some of the problems and inequalities are persisting, but at the same time, there were good community engagement and good isolated works done. So one of the first people I met is you, and so when I did mapping, I went to Voicing Views, and I met Anne Broxby. She told me about you, and the other organization. I did mapping, so one of the first people I met is you. I came to Sound Minds, and then we talked, and you were well versed with the area of work and the subject matter because you were involved in the past as well in recruitment and in the policy.
In the church as well.
Exactly, and also with commissioning. I think there was Paul Chapman and there was in public health, if you remember, there was Rose Lobo as well.
Rose Lobo.
Yeah. So so I think immediately we decided that this needs, I think your view matched with my view, that in order to address this problem, we have to start with the community. The problem is in the community. Our community, they are not well aware about what is mental health, what is mental illness. There is a strong stigma attached to mental health and mental illness. So we need to make people more aware about mental health. Anyone could be affected by mental health problems.
1 in 4.
1 in 4. And people should be open-minded, and they need to address the stigma that is persisting in our communities. So it's about educating, making people aware, and empowering them. So that's how this we started to do outreach work.
That's right.
So I remember us meeting every week.
Sometimes twice a week.
Twice a week. So going around street by street, visiting shops, pharmacies.
In the road, on the pavement, talking to people.
Exactly. Health centers.
Giving them information. First-hand information.
Exactly. Asking people what they think about mental health and telling them, making them aware. Barber shops. I think that was a good start, and we've done that in the community and immediately linked. And I remember in 2008 we, I think, is it in 2007, we celebrated World Mental Health Day.
Oh yeah,
and we invited you and the reggae band,
the Channel 1 band.
The Channel 1 reggae band came to raise awareness in Daffodil Art Centre.
I remember that.
I've got the pictures as well. That's the first
yes, I remember that.
partnership event we held, I remember.
And you worked hard on that to get it off.
It was oversubscribed, you know. 70 health and housing workers came to the first day. There was a workshop where we invited Frank Keating and we talked about DRE and all that.
And the chief executive of the trust.
Yes. And then there were stalls and open day, which was open for the public, and you played there. Yeah. So that's how we started. I do remember.
And then what happened after that? We got involved with Malik.
Yes, I think two things happened. One, in one hand, because we saw there isn't much strong infrastructure and organizations and networks to be able to address this agenda. We said, in one hand, we need to set up some kind of forum where community leaders, community workers, faith leaders, and people who are interested in this area of work come together and they share information, and then they form a stronger partnership to follow this. So we established the BME forum. I do remember we had a chat and we involved others. On the other hand, the idea of Kenros and Platts came from you, and you have invited me to join the committee as well.
That's right.
Early 2008 probably, and those are the times we started this special initiative.
That's right. And then, as soon as you got involved with us, we needed funding for Kenro's ward visiting service and Have Your Say Forum. And you knew someone who were giving out funds at a grassroots level. So you helped us get funding through grassroots funders, and which gave us a kickstart, K. Rosenblatt. So at that time, it's quite useful that you was around. And you had knowledge of mental health that we didn't have here because of your previous work, working with vulnerable people. So you had an idea before you started to work about what you were going to expect in a way. So while we were working together and going around and establishing the BME Forum with WCN, so that's when things started to take off. We mustn't forget also there was another development worker that was working with you, but that person was working in a different area of Wandsworth, because you're working in my area of Wandsworth. That's why we work extensively together. Because my background, I used to live around this area, so I know this area very well. So with that background and your knowledge of mental health, working with vulnerable people, I think that's why they responded to us when we went around. Because normally, when you go around on the street or anywhere around, talking about mental health issues, don't forget, we're very vulnerable in that community there, talking about mental health issues. I encountered a little bit of problem when we went to that barber shop underneath the junction, the train station. As soon as we stepped in the door, they were having a laugh at us for some reason. I think because we came in and both me and you had bald patches. So, and we're going into a barber shop. So what are you coming in here for, Devon? You can't get a haircut. So that lightheartedness helped us to start a conversation with the barber. Remember now? And then we started talking about mental health issues. But then he just didn't want to know, did he? So it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy going out in the community when you first started.
I think at the base of all this conversation and today's filming and the base of our work is in terms of addressing this inequalities that's existing in mental health for black people, and also mental health awareness, tackling the stigma and overrepresentation of black people. All this, I think we had really similar kind of ideas in terms of, especially the role of service users is crucial in terms of because service users have a lived experience, expertise by experience. They are the best people to know how to, really run the service, or they should be the people who should be advising, involving, and taking part in the way mental health service should be run. I had that belief, really strong belief from the beginning, but also the principle of community development, which I come from. Although, as I said, I had a transcultural mental health background, and how can you provide mental health across culture? That helped. But also community development is about establishing relationship, trust with communities, and then working with community, identifying issues, identifying projects, working and supporting and helping capacity building, and working together to be able to empower people, become more proactive, and rather than being a at the sideline, but taking a proactive role. So that's why I think we started to do the community work, and immediately Kenros and Platts gave us a platform whereby a committee was established by service users. But I was privileged enough to join the committee, and also I used my expertise and knowledge about the subject matter. Especially, we needed to train people as ward visitors, so I was involved in setting up the program, especially about issues of culture and race and other things from the perspective of BME people. I do remember it took long, but we produced that model, that program.
We approached the ward, didn't we? Ward 2 in the recovery building in Springfield Hospital. And me, you and Coral went up there. Yes. To meet with them firsthand, because that's where your office was on site. So you arranged a meeting, our first ever meeting with the ward as ward visitors. And that was crucial, coming from you, the community development worker within the trust. So you was identifying people, service users, and helping them to develop.
And it was easier for me as well because I was based there, you know. I had a simple chat with the director. If you remember, Stuart Thompson was there.
That's right,
Immediately he linked me with a ward manager. And I set up the meeting and I was there. So we had the first meeting and they, you know,
and they said yes.
They bought the idea anyway, even before it was mentioned to them. And so that's how we started. So I did in some way facilitate that as well. But we also did, if you remember, evaluation of the service.
Of course.
Yes, and patients come. And
patients, what was the second name? Siebel, something like that. Patient Siebel. And she was doing her PhD.
Yeah, exactly, that's right.
So that's why she worked with us, and some of the work she did with us herself was helpful for her and her PhD.
Yeah.
And she involved Stuart Thompson, Director of Services at that time, and a couple more people from the partnership group. So that was quite good.
So that was good really because it was captured in terms of because I remember especially Dwight was involved more with her in doing questionnaire, finding out, and doing the evaluation and the outcome of the evaluation being presented at Have Your Say.
And at the late meetings,
partnership meetings. So really good works happened, and the ward visiting scheme was really well taken as well by this trust, and many people gave feedback how it was useful. And also the trust also saw it as a flagship because they said, this is some of the good practice in terms of working with service users, working in partnership with Soundminds, Kenros and Platt. So that was really a good model.
And we also got involved, with Happy Soul.
That's right,
with Carrie, I'm not sure of his second name.
Carrie Sweeney.
Carrie Sweeney, He was chosen by the trust to head up this project called Happy Soul, which now you're still involved with Happy Soul on the board, aren't you?
Yes.
And we've done quite a lot of work with Happy Soul over the years. One is Channel 1 band, there's a few gigs. The later one is the drama play that we've written called Take Control about BME recovery. That was helped by Happy Soul himself to get funding for that with Carrie. So that was another piece of work that we've done together. Was Happy Soul. I remember we had artists in residency as well through Happy Soul, which I was involved with.
Yes, we did.
And we also did other work as well. When Happy Soul first started, the trust seems to be was very stable then, but after when things died down a bit and Happy Soul wasn't coming up with what the trust wanted, things died down a bit. Talking about the immediate trust. At that moment, Angie Hammond was part of the I think it was a racial equality
the Equality Steering Group.
Steering Group, That was held on John Mayer Ward when it first started. And there was a black psychiatrist at that time who was on John Mayer Ward. And she encouraged me to, and Angela Hammond was part of the staff there. That's when the policies for BME was at the trust. Over the years, the trust has been there. They've never added BME policies for the wards and for services in the trust until Miss Moody was her name, She was a black psychiatrist, consultant on John May at that time. And at that time, we mapped out certain things to do with BME within the trust. We looked at training, get service users involved in the training department, so that when people come to work at the trust, the training department would help them look at BME issues within mental health. At that time, things were just beginning to get on the way with BME from in the trust.
Yes.
And their families and carers. Now, at that time, when Miss Moodley was saying to me, we must get something started, Devon, to do with BME people within the trust. I'm going way back now. She said, Devon, why don't you do a newsletter to start off with? Get some of your people to do a newsletter about BME issues and send it around. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because it gives a backdrop to Happy Soul as well.
Yeah.
And when Happy Soul started, other things started to work for the trust from a BME background.
Yeah.
They started to employ volunteers who were BME. They started to have different things in the kitchen department. They started to cook different Caribbean food in the cafeteria because they were aware, because BME flag was flying at that time, not just for this trust, but for mental health. And that's where you was working extensively within that time period there, when things were changing. And for your work to come along on top of that change made a difference for service users like us.
In terms of Happy Soul, you're right. When we started, Carrie also started, but initially in 2007 he only did a very small pilot in Merton. I think he had only 1 or 2 events, just in Merton only, and showed Asian Film Festival. But with us coming, and as you said, DRE and the policies in the trust changing, we expanded it. In 2008, we were part of it, taking part, community development workers, Marcia, myself, were really, and our manager, Judy Fairweather.
Oh, yeah, Judy.
Yeah, we were keen on it. So it has covered all the 5 boroughs in 2008. And the whole idea was, how can you use film and art to raise mental health awareness in the black and minority ethnic community? And film was really a good medium which destigmatizes mental health, because you can see it in film relaxed, but you can see and learn. And also after the films, we brought people from Bollywood, Hollywood, the directors and the actors to do Q&A. And they were asking, the audience was asking questions, and freely people were discussing, and their mental health awareness increased, and their stigma and their views about mental health changed. Many of them have said in their feedback. And the audience cinema and other cinemas gave us, their calls free. So, and the trust also has given lots of funding. So, it went for 5-6 years, year after year, really growing. And it has, Happy Soul has done really, really good work. It was really another good model,
It was a good model.
Yeah. So,
and actually,
it has achieved a lot,
We were first part of that model. That model came from BME Forum. We discussed it first in the BME Forum meeting, if I remember rightly. And then I think then the trust were looking for that kind of thing not long after, I think, because some of the work you've done, but they probably would have told you that. Anyway, some of the work you did behind the scenes that helped Happy Soul to start.
Well, the BME Forum, we need to mention that, is, I think that was my own initiative, I have to say, because I've seen a model similar to that when I was in Camden, but Westminster also had a BME Forum, but it's more health. But specifically for mental health, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, Wandsworth were poor really in the voluntary sector, especially BME and mental health. So yes, we set it up on 2008. I set it up and invited everyone. And the first meeting we held was in Springfield.
In Springfield.
Conference Room A.
Conference Room A, that's right,
we did invite Paul Chapman as well, and
I can't remember if they came. Did they come?
WCN, Family Action.
Oh yeah, they came.
They did come.
Yeah.
So in the beginning there was up and down. Attendance was poor, sometimes good, but the whole idea was, although I facilitated it initially and also I was the convener, after some time I just handed it over back. I wanted to be independent and run by the voluntary sector, and which I did, and I gave it to WCN to host it. I passed all the contacts and everything. And throughout the year, BME Forum also grew really strong. And we have invited many people from the trust, directors, managers, commissioners came, and we have, worked with them and followed up many issues, looking at issues like Section 136, for example.
Actually, they're looking at that again now, actually, as we speak. BME Forum, we're investigating that again, actually.
So many issues were raised and discussed, and many actions have been taken by making, public sector workers, mental health professionals more accountable, face-to-face with community leaders, and also doing different kind of initiatives. I think workshops came out of that. Conferences. Seminars. Yeah, especially Healing Our Broken Village, the annual conference.
That was successful.
Yeah, that came out of the BME Forum.
That's right. And that's still going on, actually, isn't it? It's still going on,
On World Mental Health Day.
That's right,
Yeah, that's what we do. So the conferences, the seminars, and the workshops mainly came out of the BME Forum. But also it helped us to link the Mental Health Trust and then the social services, and there was used to be PCT, CCG obviously. So it's linking and joining and dealing with this problem in whole system approach. You can't just do with one side and leave the other. It's all interrelated. For example, good example is personalization. When personalization came, BME Forum held a workshop on personalization and did a lot of work, because, many, as usual, like things like payments of, BME people were not accessing, for example, direct payments. There was a small number of people accessing it. So issues like that were raised. People were invited from local authorities, from the PCT. So we held workshops and seminars and discussions. So BME Forum, I think that's the bedrock for many of the things also we've done.
That's right. That's what I'm saying, Because at that time, the trust wasn't up on BME. It was only Angie Hammond and me looking at the policies. But then when Happy Soul came on and you started, then things started to start again and developing over there. And some of the things that you started there are still going on now. Even now, you're still involved in befriending, or was a chair of a befriending group within Battersea.
Yes, I think one of the group I was involved in this area was the Battersea Befriending Network, and the idea was floating, and they were trying to establish. And then I joined them. They invited me, and we set up. We worked a year or so to set it up. I think they worked more, maybe 2-3 years.
And you train them as well.
Yes, and then we set up that befriending service, and I was a committee member, but I also chaired it for the last 2 years.
That's right,
I was a chair.
And now I'm involved. You've got me involved with it now, doing the training part.
The training befrienders, we do.
So I'm still involved with you doing things.
Training, in terms of training, that I do remember when I was involved with Kenros and Platts, that gave me a chance also to meet with many service users, build relationship, and knowing many of them, because I was involved in the training.
That's right. And
in the community.
Interviews.
In the interviews, volunteers and the work visitor. And then there was an opportunity to be trained. There is a really good program called Race Equality Cultural Capability, REC, which was authored by Peter Ferns and Pamela.
I know Peter.
Yes. So there was an opportunity for me to be trained. So, but also there were places for service users and carers. So I helped Coral Hines and also No, I think the initial training I
Was
went
Coral.
with Coral, and there was a carer called, forgot her name now. But the three of us went, and we attended the trainers program, and we became trainers.
That's right.
So it was really good for my own development, but also for development of other people like
well.
Coral, and then after we came back, Coral and myself, we trained some of the staff in the trust, like the early intervention
That's
teams.
right, yeah.
And we did training as well here, training ward visitors.
That's
So
right,
yeah,
yeah.
training was really good.
It was, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And there was something else as well at that time. We started to do Aviosay forums as well.
Obviously, yeah.
You spoke at those as well, giving us updates on your work as well. And we had many speakers speaking on different BME subjects. So you got involved in that as well.
Yeah, I think particularly I remember the session we did. I mean, we've done different sessions, but we did a session about spirituality, and I invited one of the CPN.
That's right,
Ernest, yeah.
At that time, he was a CPN in Shaftesbury.
In Shaftesbury, exactly.
The security unit.
So we had a really good session looking at spirituality and how it is important in recovery
That's right, yeah.
of mental health.
And it was good coming from a CPN
Yes.
talking about that issue. That made the service users more confident in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that very much.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of work we've done together.
Yeah.
So
One of the work we've done
oh yeah,
is
the focus group that we did together, Seldom Heard funded focus group
Yes.
we had. Me and you did that in this room actually,
yes.
and many BME service users took part.
Yeah.
BME service users that don't really take part in things took part in that for some reason.
Yeah, I think that was, yes, you're right. It came from, I think there was an organization called,
Seldom Heard.
I think the funding came, we did apply for the
That's
funding
right, yeah.
from the social, I think the
Some
clinical excellence, it's like NICE, but there is a social aspect of it, and that money was to look at the personal budget. How does
Right,
personal
okay.
budget, what are the problems, how do people access it, or what is preventing them to access it, and how it affects seldom heard groups, in this case looking at black service users,
That's right.
African Caribbean service. So we did a good, I did facilitate, and we had, and the outcome of it, we have written that and submitted it,
That's right.
and also submitted it to local authority.
That's right. Yeah.
The other also important work is a partnership work we did with
Taha, yeah.
the Asian Health
That's
Agency,
right. Yeah.
the BME Leadership and Engagement.
Yeah. That was a very important piece of work.
Yes.
That saw me going all over London, different venues, speaking to different people, and that was headed up by Farah.
Yes.
And also Chandra from North London.
No, he's from
Is it?
Harrow Mind, yeah?
Arrow Mind, yeah. Sorry, Arrow, yeah. He got involved as well
Yeah, he did,
in that. And I used to speak at different seminars and different venues, and they came down here to Wandsworth and approached me and you from the trust, me from here. And we did many events, didn't we? Speaking out. We did one at Mushkil Azam.
That's right, a workshop on BME service user involvement, because he's a service user.
That's right.
He was involved with Time to Change as well.
He was involved with
And
that as
also
well, yeah.
looking at personalization.
Yes, I remember that you organised me to do some work with another community development worker that you recommended me to see. His name was Ross.
Yeah.
So I met him and he explained what he wants me to do to help him with his work. So what happened, he organised for me to go to the Royal Institute of Psychiatry, and they were investigating why BME service users, black so young boys were going into mental hospitals, and they couldn't find out what the problem was. And some of the diagnoses that were given to them were like paranoid schizophrenic and things like that at that time. So I got involved with the Royal Institute of Psychiatry filming that, and it's on their website, and it's part of training when people train to be psychiatrists. And that was the main reason why they did that piece of media work. And that was because you organised that through another person to have me to do that. So that's another piece of work that we did together, actually.
Yeah, other than Taha and some of, we worked in partnership because we had a national CDW network, all CDWs in London. We used to meet and we used to have a network. And I used to be a national rep, actually.
So that's how you knew about?
Yeah, I knew many of them. I still know, some of them are still there. Many of them are gone, but for example, I know in Maudsley, South London, Maudsley, one or two are there. And in Oxley, one of our colleagues is there.
Also, I can't remember his name, from Merton Fannin.
Yes, David.
Not just Ian and David.
Yeah, they're gone, because they work with Fannin, didn't they?
That's right, yeah.
We went to Fannin.
We worked with Fannin as well, Fannin in Merton and Fannin in Brixton as well.
Yes, exactly.
So we did some work with them. We took the plays to them as well. Yes. Take control.
They were interested in the training, but it didn't work out, I remember.
That's right. That's right, it didn't work out.
Anyway, so in summary now, in terms of impression and reflection, just...
Yes, I think this work that started by the government, but it's not finished yet. A 5 years piece of work into looking into BME mental health, that's nothing at all compared to what's happening in BME mental health. But I think the work is not finished, and it should continue. There is good practice out of it. Many people have changed. Their ideas about mental health has changed. Many people have had lots of improvement in their mental health because of this piece of work. I met you because of this piece of work. So yes, it's important that this work continues, and there's lots more to do.
I think in terms of legacy of delivering this equality, the program, there were isolated good practices, especially in community engagement. As we covered it, linking with communities, building trust, relationship, awareness raising, addressing stigma, and empowering people. There are now in one source many people from BME communities very much empowered and very proactive, engaging with the trust, with the CCG, with the local authorities. Right. Just to mention a few, WCN, and NTA. And there are many groups and many individuals as well who were involved at the BME Mental Health Forum, and some of the work we've done, as I said, Happy Soul and Ken Rosenblatt. So, but in terms of future, as I said earlier, this is just 5-6 years work. You can't tackle an issue that has been embedded, for example, for decades, and inequalities were there for a long time. So you need also a longer period of time in order to redress the balance, to get the inequalities. So good work has been done, but although there are constraints in terms of resources and the economic climate is hard, but it is another work that shouldn't be left aside, because I think some of the people are saying, it may not be a factor, but it is a factor. Race is a factor. Of course, socioeconomics and other things, class matter, but race is a factor because,
it's always a factor.
It is
race relations always.
Yes. So it needs to be addressed in a broader equalities maybe, but I think some of the good work that has been done shouldn't be left alone, and BME mental health work should still be a priority and continue to be addressed, because still there is a gap, and that so similar works should continue. I think.
Brilliant.
And it was really also for me just to say it was nice to know you Ken Rosenplatz
Yes,
and
yes.
Sound Minds and to work together with you all
Yes.
this time. I really enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
we've done some good work together.
Groundbreaking work.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.